guys, so today is not a video that I'm excited to share with you. It's not a video I was planning on doing, but as you can tell by the title, Creampuff actually passed away. Usually I'm not a big fan of doing tribute videos like this. I just don't really like to address it that much. But since I just recently adopted him and so many of you were interested in his adoption story, I didn't think it would be fair just to kind of push this to the side and not address what happened. So today I'm just going to be talking about what happened with Creampuff. If you don't know who Creampuff was because he was so new on my channel, he's a Syrian hamster that I adopted from PetSmart just over a month ago. He was a special needs hamster, so PetSmart wasn't able to actually sell him. So they did reach out to me and see if I wanted to adopt him for free, and I decided to take him in. If you haven't seen the video of his whole story, I will link it at the end of this. And that goes into a little bit more detail, but basically he had what is called hydrocephalus. It wasn't actually confirmed by a vet because it's really hard to get a real diagnosis on it, but just from all his signs and symptoms, that seemed to be the most plausible. The main issue he had was with his teeth. He actually only had his two top teeth. He didn't have any bottom teeth, and his top teeth grew at a really weird angle. They grew pretty much back, so unlike a normal hamster, he couldn't chew on stuff to keep his teeth down, so they were going to have to be trimmed very frequently. He did have some trouble eating, so I would have to soften his food, and he also did have some eye issues, and it can cause a lot of other issues, but since I didn't have him that long, I didn't see a ton of those. So now I'm just going to take a minute and tell you what happened with Creampuff and unfortunately why he isn't here anymore. And it all started, it was actually almost 2 weeks ago now. So Creampuff was doing extremely well. When I first got him, he was on some medicine and some eye drops, but once that ended, he was completely normal. He was healthy, he was extremely active, he was eating well, and everything was great. One night when I went in the pet room for my normal nighttime routine, I went to check on everybody and feed them and everything, and I didn't see Creampuff right away. He usually would sleep under his wheel, so I just assumed he was there. And then when I saw him, he was acting really weird. He was having a very hard time breathing. His eyes were completely shut, and he was just making a lot of respiratory noises. This was obviously really shocking because it was late at night and none of my emergency vets will even touch a hamster, and he was perfectly fine the night before, so I didn't really know what to do. But luckily I have some great friends on YouTube that kind of helped me with some stuff, and I was able to get him out of that cage. I went ahead and put him in a smaller cage with paper towel bedding because he was obviously having some respiratory issues, so I wanted to get him off of normal paper bedding because it is a little bit dusty. So I put him in a small cage, got him comfortable, and just kept an eye on him until the next morning. The next morning when I woke up, the first thing I did was call the vet, and luckily the vet was able to get him in that morning. So he went in around 11 o'clock that morning for his vet appointment, and when he was at the vet, they did confirm that it was probably just a respiratory infection. That's really common in these hamsters because of their teeth and all of their issues. So we started him again not only on antibiotics but the eye drops that he was on before because they seemed to clear everything up before. So he got diagnosed with a respiratory infection. I came home with the medicine and started him on that. And while he was at the vet, they also trimmed his top teeth because it had only been a couple weeks since they were trimmed last, but they were already getting extremely long, so they went ahead and trimmed his teeth while we were there. So once I got home, he stayed in that small cage just so I could keep an eye on him, and he didn't have any bedding. I did cut up some napkins so he could have some nesting material that wasn't super dusty, but I didn't want to give him Carefresh or any other like soft paper like that because that would not help a respiratory infection at all. So he stayed in that small cage for a few days, and I gave him his medicine twice a day, gave him his eye drops. So over the next few days, he stayed in that cage and he was improving a little bit. I don't want to lie and say there were huge improvements, but his breathing was definitely getting better. He was still wheezing a bit, but he wasn't like labored breathing like he was when I first found him, and his eyes were finally starting to open. So although I didn't have super high hopes for him just because I know there are so many issues with those types of hamsters, he was starting to improve and I was hoping he'd get better. I actually bought him a brand new cage that I was getting ready to set up and put him in. And then the other day, I think it was about 3 or 4 days ago now, I got home from work and I went to check on him and he had passed away. So even though he did seem to be improving a little bit, I guess in the end with all of his underlying health issues, his body just wasn't strong enough to recover fully. And even though I'm obviously upset about not being able to give him a long, happy life, I know I don't look that upset. I'm not good with showing emotions, but it does suck that he was with me for such a short amount of time. But I also was aware of going into it that he does have health issues. He might not live a long time. I just wanted to give him the best life possible for as long as I could. It wasn't very long, but I know in the end so many people wouldn't have even taken him to that vet appointment. They wouldn't have spent money on a hamster. They wouldn't have done anything. So I did try my best. It just unfortunately wasn't good enough. So I know this video wasn't exciting and I've been gone from YouTube for a couple weeks. I should be back full force pretty soon. I've just been taking some time off and chilling for a bit. I promise my next videos will not be quite so depressing. I actually have some stuff coming up that I am extremely excited for. So I'm really excited to finally try to get back in the swing of things after a couple weeks off. So that is it for today's video. I guess give it a thumbs up. Not if you enjoyed it, but that's just what I say. So give it a thumbs up for one last like for Creampuff. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time.